Welcome, Cody.
Hello, hello. Yes, can you hear
How
me?
are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And yourself?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I was sitting here trying to, draw some cards, and I got this card called lyhörd in the Swedish language. And when I started to Google that, it came up as responsive.
Hmm.
So, but I don't feel like that is the right word for it. But the the meaning of it is that you should be, of course, listen to what people are saying, but feel the energy behind what's actually is said.
Hmm. Gotcha.
So I don't know if responsive is the right word. Well, we are going to leave it with that. We are live, so welcome, Cody, once again.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It's been a couple of weeks now, so and it has to do with a lot of things that is going on, and I have had a quite turbulent time here because my mom is older, so it has taken a lot of time. Um, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Um, just a lot of appointments, a lot of extra things that I normally don't do, during my week. So it's been a lot busier for me as well. So,
Are you noticing that things are speeding up in the reality, or you know,
mhm.
getting a bit crazier?
Yeah, definitely a bit crazier. And it might have been just because of how busy I am, but it does seem like the weeks go faster than they would normally go. So,
Good. So it's not only me, only.
yes.
So yeah, well, we are going to talk about a fun topic tonight. Do you want to share what we are going to talk about?
Yeah, it'd be the study of magic or magic in general, and then maybe a side topic if we get into it of Merlin.
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad you sorted that out because I started to say that we are going to talk about geometric and symbols and,
Yes.
and other stuff, but it's
Yeah.
a part of it, right?
Yes,
So,
very much.
so where do you want to begin?
Um, well, I'd say I'll begin with where I was researching or studying up on it a little bit more, and where it kind of always went to when I was studying this was going back to the person or the text of Hermes, Triskenosis or whatever, Hermes, but basically the Hermetica. Um, that seems to be where like the origin of magic and that type of stuff really was written down, if you will. It's like actually, you know, historical, I guess, but it really started in Mesopotamia, in like the now present day, like Iraq, around there. That's like the first instance where it was uh, put down as magic, Um, but I also believe that magic has been a part of human civilization from the first village that when humans come together. I think it was just part of us. We get, magic can also be just defined in many different ways, and therefore some people would say it's spiritual, it's esoteric, all that type of stuff. It's those different types of practices, but it still fall within the umbrella of magic.
So let's go back to Mesopotamia. That is the first language. Mesopotamia was the very first country to have, or yeah, country,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
who had a written language, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, very much. Yeah, yeah. At
So
least,
it actually goes to trace back to Mesopotamian because that is
mhm.
old.
Yes, it tracks all the way back to 3,500 BC, one of the first civilizations that we have a recorded history of.
Mhm.
You know, um, and yeah, it goes all the way down into Egypt and Greece, and it just flowed all the way down until the modern day. You know, we have all these types of different magic. We have Greek magic, we have Egyptian magic, we have all these different, types. We have necromancy, chaos magic, and so it gets into all these different types that have evolved from the beginning, which we can trace back to Mesopotamia, but I believe it was earlier than that. It just the written one is Mesopotamia.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and Hermes specifically really brought it into the forefront of most, scholars, if you will, most people who are searching for truths and that type of thing. But Hermes is a very controversial, I would say, not topic, but person, because some people believe that it was an actual person, other people believe that he was more mystical, kind of like a just a representation of these written works that have been gathered together, And so, yeah, you don't know if there's no true written documentation that he actually existed or did not exist, but his texts and stuff have survived. But yeah.
So he's a mythical person or persona in the within this topic.
Yes, yeah.
Almost like Merlin, because you don't have,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everybody's talking about Merlin, but is there really a documentation that he actually existed?
No, see, that's the thing. There's stories that popped up during like the Middle Ages, if you will, of this magician wizard dude that was, I guess, in the court of the king and all this stuff. But there is multiple stories of it as well, so it's not just one story. It's kind of branched out into multiple things, and therefore there's no true origin to say that this person existed or did not exist.
Hmm. And I definitely do believe that they did exist, because that
Mhm,
is how the mythical, talk about these personas are
mhm,
created. There is someone there who is performing
mhm,
something that is
mhm.
unbelievable to so many people. So that is the myth growing around
Yes,
that person. So
exactly.
definitely, but he could have other names. What do
Mhm.
I know? But I do like the topic magical, because what's your perspective of magical? What is magic?
Yeah, magic to me would be broken down into two ways of using magic, if you will. Magic would be using it to manifest or to create something in your reality that you want to experience or have. So like changing in career or just anything. That's like manifestation magic. The other type is more spiritual sustenance, if you will, where you're using magic to bring in energy and information that you absorb into your body to allow you to have a growth, accelerated growth in your spiritual development. Mm-hmm.
So that could be like healing or
Mm-hmm.
meditation, and the other
Mm-hmm.
one could be, an altered state of mind working
Mm-hmm.
towards a goal.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And meditation is huge actually within magic because magic, when you're trying to cast it, especially during ceremonial magic, it's you're trying to build up energy towards it, and so you have to be able to focus on one singular thing, one focused thing to build up the energy as much as possible to go into it. And
Mhm.
so meditation kind of trains you to be able to bring your energy into one focus and not have it scattered out. And so your energy disperses and makes it so it's not as powerful. And so meditation is kind of key into being able to create very powerful and meaningful magic.
Mm. So I usually say that someone asked me for a long time ago, what's the difference between black magic and white magic? And I said it's the intention of how you're using it. So that is
Yes.
how I see it. And I was thinking here, if there is the first written words about magic in the Mesopotamia, uh, then it has been an ongoing procedure for a very, very long time before it's actually written down. And to me, a ceremony or a ritual is the same thing as a prayer. And every prayer is a vibrational equation, even if it's religious or non-religious, but it contains a vibration, and that vibration is attracting some other energy or are meeting up with the similar energies. So to write it down is, to me, a just an easier way to both remember in what order or what it is that I'm supposed to do, like a prayer. It's the same words that are spoken for yeah, either within yourself or spoken out loud. And then there are many people speaking these words, so it attracts a lot of energy. So when you're written it, write it down, and people are using those ceremonial rituals, there are a special frequency that are growing within it.
Very much so. Yeah, I always like to say that writing it down or saying it, like even within the English language, is very interesting. Where you're spelling a word, right? But
Yeah.
that can also mean that you're casting a spell because it's spelling. So so every time that we're speaking, we're casting spells. Every time that we are focused on a thing and speaking out, it's like as if you're casting magic. You're casting a spell. You know. And so yeah, and that frequency is very important because you're attracting it. It's like already exists, if you will, but you're just aligning your core vibration into the vibration that you're trying to experience, and so it just aligns up with the thing that already exists. Yeah.
So isn't that where we are right now in the ascension time? Because everything that we are thinking or transforming through our thoughts is actually taking place somewhere in a reality. So you are,
Mm-hmm.
always spelling your own thoughts, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much because everything exists. All it's all here and now. So it's already exists it has existed for forever, and that goes back to like the mechanics of how we experience reality. We think of reality as linear, but it's not linear. It's one point of all existence. It's all in one, and so yeah, that's where it gets kind of tricky or kind of also fun because then you can also really play around with what you want to what experience you want to have within this physical existence.
Mm. And it also attracts similar energies. So if you are working with the intention of doing good, you are also attracting another sort of vibration. So, and if you are using it in another direction, you are actually attracting other intentions and other vibrations that are, uh, for me, not so friendly to use.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think the best way of saying it is that when you're using kind of light magic or the attraction of good and all that type of stuff, it's always within love. It's always within this uh, growing, if you will. It's always growing and multiplying with that love. When you're doing more negative, it becomes more individualized. It becomes less about growing and more about having, and so it doesn't have the same energetic niceness to it. And therefore, there's no true love, in that
Mm.
same aspect. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Hermes, what did he do? What was
Well,
his
his
cue?
yes, yeah, his contributions is quite huge. He was basically the beginning of philosophy, if you will. Philosophy, alchemy, astrology, magic. He's kind of has it all wrapped up into these texts that he wrote. He's also attributed to writing the Emerald Tablets, um, but that one is also very disputed in the scholaring community. And the Emerald Tablets is quite elusive to be able to find true documentation about it and the connection with Hermes.
You
But he's
explain
also
a little bit more about the Emerald Tablets, because I think that everyone who has grown up with stories have heard about the emerald tablets because they are mentioned through fairy tales, they are mentioned in
Hmm.
history books and or religious scripts. So what are they?
Yes. So the Emerald Tablets are basically a collection of uh, not documents, but it's okay. There's the stories that I know and the history and stuff like that that I know, and so it's again not going to be 100% if it is true or not. But this is what I believe is that the Emerald Tablets are actually tablets made of emerald. That when you read them, depending on your consciousness level, you get a different type of information from it. So they're almost multidimensional, if you will. So whatever you're reading depends on your consciousness you'll get out of it. So you can be, barely have any, consciousness at all and still be able to read it and get something out of it. Or you could be a high level mage that's, on the edge of,
Hmm.
enlightenment or past enlightenment, all that type of stuff, and get something completely different and still be able to grow or get something out of it. But where they're kind of originated from is actually from Egypt, at least a little probably where they're kind of stored, if you will, where they kind of came up. Because apparently, how I know it is Toph or Thoth is the one that actually written the Emerald Tablets, the ones that he was the scribe. He was the one that written it down.
Mhm.
And apparently they're stored under the Sphinx. But
Oh.
so that's the kind of the story or the what would be kind of the conspiracy, if you will.
Yeah.
but but yeah, from what I know, it's they're very uh, powerful objects that have a lot of information that goes from how society should be, not should be, but the best way to run society, laws, different dimensional multi-dimensional concepts, how to heal, medicine, it kind of covers it all. uh, yeah.
So what is your perception of that it might be hidden under the Sphinx?
Yeah, I would say that at one point in time they were under the Sphinx, but I'm not sure if they're stored there now because things change and they could be placed in a different uh, room or a different area on Earth, type of thing. And because they are very sacred, and we're getting closer and closer to being able to find these hidden chambers and different stuff within Egypt, and therefore we are more likely to be able to find the rooms that are or the tunnels that are under the Sphinx and stuff. And so we could they could have been moved, but that's there's also a lot of stuff about Egypt that I have vague memories of learning, but therefore I don't want to fully speak on it just because I don't want to mess up my words and say something that isn't true.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
we can say right now we are
Mhm.
speculating here. We are
Yeah,
using
yeah,
information that we have or have been,
Mhm.
reading up to ourselves.
Mhm.
So that is the fun part of being in these chats because that is our information and how we are seeing it. Why I ask you that question is because they found a tunnel underneath the Sphinx for not so long ago.
Mhm.
Did you know that?
Yes. Yeah, I think I've heard a little bit where they use some type of lidar, some technology to peer past the ground, and they saw openings and all that type of stuff. And I think that's just the beginning tunnel of a what I know to be a huge complex that goes under almost like a maze that goes under
Yeah.
the
They haven't
Giza.
found anything yet, what I know, but they have definitely starting to, climb down underneath. So it's going to be interesting to follow that, and to see what they are finding. Uh, Going back to the Emerald tablets, you said that there are different conscious levels within the tablets that everyone has their own experience and when they are reading it. And isn't that how it works in reality too? Because sometimes when we are talking about learning life lessons, you know you are going through something and you get experience, and hopefully you are learning something. And when you think you know what the lecture was, you are actually back in the same situation just to find out if you actually learned how to deal with that. And then you are moving on to something else. So it's constantly a challenge for ourselves. So the emerald tablets are, in a way, you know, acting in the same way. So is that a metaphor for how the real life and reality actually
Mm.
is?
Yeah, it's very much. Yeah, when I say it's on all different levels of consciousness, it's exactly as you explain it. You can read it one time, understand some of it, and then go back another time, understand more of it, and then come back, understand more, understand more, understand more. So you always are getting something different, something growth out of it. Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's so that is not so hard to understand, that people have this different opinions whether it's real or if it's imaginary, because it's hard to, have these physical changeable things if they are not in another dimension. So in
Yeah,
our
exactly.
dimension, it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not working in the same way, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. So he was the author of the Emerald Tablets.
Yeah, that's what historically was written down, if you will, is that he was noted to be the written or the written form of, or the author, if you will, of the Emerald Tablets. And yeah, but it gets very elusive because like the first mentions or first written mentions of it goes back to like a Arabic or Arabic writer in the early ninth century CE, and writing about almost like an encyclopedia where it wasn't like fully explained, but it was saying that emerald tablets noted to come from Hermes Trismegistus explains philosophy, explains society, explains this. It almost just like a checklist of things that has been written in it. Therefore, it never really actually was a true copy or true written down form of what the emerald tablets actually said. You know, uh,
Mhm.
and but there has been some documents that have come up that apparently were a few lines basically from the emerald tablets, and they were supposed to just those few lines be able to kind of epitomate or uh, have this collective knowledge of what hermetic teaching is. So even just within a few lines, it kind of showed everything that you needed to learn from the hermetic teachings. But
Interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
but
So
but
what's next after Hermes? Who took over the magic? Who
uh,
who did it pass it on to?
yeah, passing on. And that's the interesting thing is that technically, it how this stuff is passed on is an oral tradition, to where, and when you say oral tradition, it's not just like storytelling, if you will, where when we think of oral tradition, it just is the elders telling stories to the youngsters, and then the youngsters remember it and tell it to that type of thing. But it's more of like master student, and there's a current, there's an energy that transfers from master to student. And so it basically, you kind of have to be taught by someone to be able to absorb the energy and to be able to use the magic and all that type of stuff correctly, if you will, and with actual authority, going down and down and down. So like in a sense, uh, two people can be saying the same thing, but the one that holds the current is actually going to have more energy, have more actual, results, if you will, than the one that's not holding the current but saying the same words. And so it's you kind of have to have that oral tradition passed down from master student, and it goes down into the Knights Templar, where the Knights Templar was actually uh, guarding these pilgrims that were going back and forth to like these holy lands and stuff like that, and kind of keeping them safe from bandits and all these negative people. And so from there, the Knights Templar kind of passed it down all the way to England, where the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn kind of emerged, and therefore they got the current from them, and the Order of the Golden Dawn came to America and kind of passed the current here, and so that's how like America got the energy, how they got the teachings, but it's kind of been passed down through all these different like occult, secret occult type of groups that you kind of have to be initiated into.
Well, they usually are initiation in every
Mhm,
of these cults or
mhm,
orders, and
mhm,
I have always had an tremendous respect for the Knight Templars, and they had a very short period in
mhm,
life, um, and they were, dissolved,
mhm,
and they, as you said, ended up in different other cultures or cults.
mhm,
So, but yeah, there are very much, not very much, but there are different opinions whether they were working for the holy cause, actually, hold the energy, or if they were working for themselves and another type of energy. So, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I would say they originated as something very benevolent, if you will, very, uh, being the vessels of God, if you will, being the vessels of justice and truth and all that type of stuff. And they were very, very poor at the beginning, where two knights would have to share a horse type of thing,
Yeah.
And so it definitely grew and grew and grew. And at a certain point, I think different aspects or different side groups of the Knights Templar became a little bit selfish, if you will, and saw that they were gaining a lot of wealth and gaining a lot of power and all that type of stuff. And I think it kind of got to some of them, and they became less than holy.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
mhm,
pretty much how I see it too. I think they
mhm,
started with a very, very good intention, or got visible in the community that they were working within, with a very good intention, and then
mhm.
slowly got depraved even there. So that's the usual thing when people are growing, or a order is growing. But there is a lot of other orders too who has these initiations, and they're very, full of secrets, and you never know actually what's going on
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like one of the famous ones is the Order of the Golden Dawn, where Aleister Crowley was a member of, and Aleister Crowley ended up kind of getting out of the order because he saw that it was too hierarchical, where you almost had to pay to be able to get up to the next level of knowledge.
Mhm.
And he was like, this is not what this knowledge is supposed to be about. We're kind of twisting it into our own personal gain. And so he was like, forget this, I'm going to create my own order. And he created OTC, and made it so that everybody had almost equal access to this information, depending on their level of consciousness as well, because they're not going to teach someone who's not ready for something, because teaching someone very powerful magic when they're not ready for it can really hurt them. They can blow themselves up, if you will, um, and so yeah, you have to have that knowledge be uh, passed down in the right order, but I don't think it should be, or he didn't think it should have been a paywall, if you will, to be able to get that next level of information.
No. No, definitely. And Alistair Crowley has his own reputation. There are not so many people who are thinking that he did so much good either.
Yeah.
And that the other cult that or order that you mentioned there, they have the same. Not so many have heard of them actually, but we do have a branch of those here in Sweden too. So they have their rituals too.
Yes.
Um, and there's a hierarchy there too. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
it,
think
it,
there
it's
it's
almost like it has to be a hierarchy in this
yeah, there
order.
has
Someone has to be
mm,
on the top
the charge. Exactly.
in
Yeah.
charge. Yeah.
yeah, and it's even within Buddhist sects and all that, Zen temples and all that type of stuff. There's always the elder, and then there's always
Mhm,
the younglings, and so yeah, there's always going to be some type of or some type of hierarchy.
mhm.
But yeah, so it's kind of hard to get away from that, especially just because life itself is somewhat leveled in a hierarchy.
It is
Yeah,
more than we want to admit.
yeah, me too.
It
Yes.
is a very very tough hierarchy
Mhm,
in real life. So,
mhm,
but away from the orders, because we don't want to
mhm.
get stuck in that energy,
Yes.
because we are only going
Yes. Mhm,
to step on
mhm,
someone's toes, and we don't want to
mhm.
do that.
Exactly.
So back to the
Mhm.
magic.
Yes, magic, the fun stuff,
Yeah.
because that's where you can really play around. Like if you have the fundamental knowledge of it, the kind of bare bones basics, then you can really build off of it and then really start having fun with it. But you kind of have to do that, not grunt work, but kind of that work to be able to fully utilize some of the teaching, some of the stuff. Um, and I think some of the also kind of hardships are kind of not hardships but confusion, if you will, within magic or Eastern practices of like Western, or kind of Western practices kind of say that it's magic, while Eastern practices say that it's like spiritual tools. And like one of the things I kind of wanted to mention is that Eastern practices, they have almost the same stuff, but the way that the system is kind of set up is for them to reach enlightenment. With Eastern practices are going for enlightenment, but Western magic practices, they say it's solar consciousness. So it's kind of the same thing but different words, and how to get to them is kind of different. Where the Eastern practices say, I have it set up to where you reach this enlightenment within multiple lifetimes, so it's kind of a kind of drawn out type of thing. Whereas Western magic type of stuff tends to do that in one lifetime. So it's almost like you're putting jet fuel on the process and just
Mm,
speeding it up, which can be very intense and overwhelming for a lot of people that can't handle it. Therefore, they go more towards the Eastern practices where it's a little bit more calmed
yeah.
down. Mm,
Well,
yeah.
that's a good thing that you actually brought that up. Um, I like to think of spirituality as a, as you said, a slow way of getting knowledge. It's a
Mhm,
spiritual growth, and
mhm,
everything that is, provided during that spiritual growth is a tool to be
mhm.
accessed.
Yes. Mhm,
So that is a compliment. The tools are not the spirituality. It's just
mhm,
how should I say it? You're being granted to
mhm,
use these tools
mhm.
as you
Yeah.
are
Mhm,
moving
mhm,
forward on your spiritual path. And I have met a lot of people. They are so both funny and kind in many ways,
mhm,
but they
mhm,
have access a bit of information and
mhm,
high-wired away
mhm,
from the spiritual path, and then dive right
mhm,
into the magic stuff, and
mhm.
yeah, it can totally mess up their heads.
Yes, very much. Yeah, if you're not ready for it, like I said, you can truly blow yourself up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Bless
yeah,
their hearts, they
yes,
are so wonderful to talk to,
yeah,
but they
hmm,
are really, yeah, quite a mess right now.
exactly. Yeah, and that's why a lot of that stuff does have to be taught down and kind of guided with a master in place. You can't really be doing it on your own. Like you can definitely learn the stuff, but doing it and learning it are kind of different. So you can learn the fundamentals and see like dip your toe into it, but you don't want to jump head first. You kind of want to be able to, you know, get the vibe and make sure that you can kind of handle it before you start doing really intense ceremonial magic.
Mm. But it's so hard not to try to
I
explore
know,
that stuff.
I know, right? I
So,
know. Yeah, but like my mom does it fairly well to where she's Wiccan, so she has that type of ritual magic as well, but it's done within like a pagan ceremonial through the seasons type of things, to where it's not like she's trying to, manifest a whole bunch of, things all at once, if you will. She's really focused on like one thing at a time, and it's really focused on each of the seasons, like Sabbath, or that type of thing. It's a little bit more, you know, focused on Mother Earth and the seasons and changing and all that type of stuff. And it's less about, I want this, I'm going to put my energy into that, and I want to bring that energy into me and have all this like overwhelming stuff kind of come up, and it kind of forces you into all these lessons very quickly, And so she does it very slow, very methodical.
I know you've spoken about your mother before, and I like your mom. I never met her, but I like her.
Yes.
And it should be fun to hear her sometime talking about
Hmm.
her stuff too. But
Hmm.
back to the magical stuff. I do assume that you have also tried out to explore the magical stuff by yourself. Um, and
Yes, I
so have
have.
I, obviously. But yeah, people may think, well, that I'm a mess too, but we are here talking about it, so I'm doing pretty well in a way. Um, but there is a, course of notion, or how do you say it? You should be a warning label to magic
Yes,
to um
yes,
be aware of both sides. It can go
mhm,
both well and it can go bad.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I think some of my bad experiences is me trying to tap into energies that I wasn't ready for, and they kind of burnt my system up, if you will. And
Yeah.
I kind of like, my whole brain was truly like fried. My whole nervous system kind of got messed up, and I allowed, um, let's say, very unkind beings to be in my space for a little bit, that I had to really push to get them out of my space. Um, so yeah, it can definitely invoke beings as well into your space if you don't know what you're doing. You don't have the bright protections around.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like you are actually invoking beings to join
Mm-hmm.
you, but you are
Yeah.
open portals where they are
Yes.
coming through. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what we are saying. So it's not that we're sitting here, invoking,
Mm-hmm.
entities that we are trying to embrace or, or
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
And it's portals. You need to know
Yes.
your energies
Mm-hmm.
before you go there. And I can share a story. When I grew up, I heard a lot about these astral projections, and
Mm-hmm.
I had this vision in my eyes or in my mind of how it took place, with the
Mm-hmm.
tunnel and swirling lights,
Mm-hmm.
and moving very, very fast. So I went into a meditation, and I set my mind that I'm not going to leave that meditation until I am in that tunnel and I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing this light
Mm-hmm.
spinning up. And it was like a roller coaster, actually. And I was flying fast through these tunnels, and it went cross and up and down. And it was like time, space, yeah, I got a vivid
Mm-hmm.
imagination too, so that it's no problem for me to create a state of mind to see that. And suddenly it was like time just stopped. And from a tunnel um, beneath me, there was a bright light coming up, in front of me, like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yes.
was two giant eyes. And
Mm-hmm.
I got so freaking scared when I saw it because that was not in my vision. I was there to have a joyride in those
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
energies, and I wasn't prepared for that. And that took just a second, and I was back in my reality. And that took quite a bit to get back into those uh, to awaken up those energies again, to be able to move in my mind, because I wasn't ready. So it was like a test, like, are you really sure you want to be here? and I
Mhm.
couldn't handle it. So they put me right back in reality and say, start over, get to
Yeah.
work, go back to basic.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it
Mhm.
took time. It took
Yes.
time to
Yeah.
sort it out. But it was fun. It's one of
Definitely.
those crazy
Mhm.
experiences that could have gone
Mhm.
wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some of the funnest stuff I have been able to do is with astral projection. But again, you kind of have to start, like you said, just start the basics of just being able to feel the energy, feel your body being able to separate and kind of move up on stuff. There's also different ways of having kind of visual techniques to be able to help it out. If you're like one of the best ones to make sure that you're still protected is having the silver thread. Silver thread connected with your heart to your astral body. Therefore, you're always connected to your body. There's no true, you know, separation. You're just one and the same. And then for no other energies can enter your body while you are gone, if you will. You're kind of a little bit more
Mm.
protected. And then with me, I was also astral projecting within a group. So I had a group setting where I was learning basic psychic development and psychic development course. And while I we were supposed to astral project together, if you will, as like a group, and we go to certain places as like a group. Um, I tended to be the kind of Speedy Gonzalez, if you will, the one that is there within an instant, and I have to wait for everybody to slowly kind of bring their thing because they weren't ready to move that fast, if you will.
Mhm.
And so I was one that, like you said, I just wanted to go, 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 just immediately. And so I kept having, or the teacher, if you will, the master there, kept saying, "You need to slow down. You're going too fast. Like you kind of need to be able to work yourself up from going from the room that you're in to the building to the town and kind of moving up into Earth. And then once you're there, then you can move into other different dimensions and that type of stuff. Not just go from your body straight to the place that we're supposed to be." Because that's what I was basically doing. I wasn't traveling at all. I was just blipping from one space to the next because that's how I understood reality is everything is here and now. Therefore, I don't need to travel. I just go into the frequency or the space that I need to go. So that is also combines your knowledge from the past as well. Like if you have knowledge that everything is here and now, then moving that fast, moving to some other place becomes easier because you already have a concept that you don't have to
Mm.
travel. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff I
Yeah,
also
and when you
experienced.
were sitting with that information, to have someone tell you to slow down could also be an obstacle in how to handle the energy because you're already there, right?
Yes,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're trying to learn, how to do things, I think that is why so many try to explore these concepts by themselves because you don't want to hear too much explanation because I have also been in, groups, and when you have worked through 10 or 20 steps before you are actually moving, you're so, I'm out of here because I'm probably already fallen asleep, or I can't do this unless I do this. So,
Yes,
and that is also, how do you say, um, taking the energy, taking the edge of doing
yeah,
things. So.
yes,
But did you
exactly.
get any response to that? Did it
Well,
work for you?
well, what I had to do when she would say, you need to slow down and stuff, is I would basically just block back to where the group was, so where their level was, and so I'd be going there. She would say, "Slow down," and I just kind of come back. I'm like, "Okay, I'll walk with you guys." But then I'd be walking faster, if you will, and I'll just automatically get there, and I'll have to come back and then get there and then come back. And so it's
Oh,
just kind
so
of
you were the alpha dog in that group. You were pulling the
yeah,
sledge up the hill.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much, yeah.
So, but that is an experience too. That
Mhm.
is so fun. That is so fun. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing. Um,
yes,
I
and
like this. But
yeah,
I just need to ask you, since I do know that you have done a few experience by yourself too, when we are talking about astral projection, and we have been talking about this of not live but in other forums, out of body. these astral projections. I I have been outside my body, you know, seeing the room that I'm in during a meditation without, you know, having my eyes open. You see him with a third eye.
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
and that is also a almost like you are sucked out of your body.
mhm. Yes, very much. It's very different from astral projection, where you almost like when astral projecting, it can be very um, dissociating, if you will, to where, at least for me, when I was astral projecting, I had full awareness of my body. So I was in two places at once, basically. So I was within here, but I was also out there, if you will. When you're doing an out of body experience, there is no awareness of here. You're just out there. So
Yeah,
it's almost like more of your consciousness goes out with that experience.
yeah,
And yeah, mine were a little bit different to where most of my out of body experiences came from deaths or overdoses. Uh,
yeah.
and so mine were definitely a little bit different, Um, but yeah, so I didn't really get much chance to explore, if you will, once I was out of body. It was just kind of a
You
thing that
have
you
memories
realize.
from that time, from what's
Yes,
actually
yeah,
happened.
yeah. From the dying, it's very weird memories, and they're not like the ones that you would normally hear. You know, like seeing the light and all this, beautiful stuff or whatever from people that have had near death experiences. Uh, Mine was more emptiness. When I became conscious that I was outside of my body and I was kind of dead, was that it was like a void. There was no body. There was only awareness of myself, or just awareness of it. And the time was really fractured, if you will, to where it felt like hours and hours, almost days, if you will, just there. And but then when I got back, it appeared apparently I was only dead for 7 minutes, and so the time slippage, if you will, was definitely very apparent of that. Time works differently on
Mm.
the other side, But I also came back with a lot of knowledge of that accelerated my kind of uh, curiosity about the other side and all these different spiritual aspects of reality. And I definitely got to experience emptiness, but also wholeness, if you will. So I really got to experience what would be called like the what I don't know. So what some say is like enlightenment, where you have full awareness of the here and now, and full awareness of everything and nothing.
Mm.
And so over there, I had awareness of nothingness. I was just pure awareness, just there's nothing void. But I also felt like I was tapped in to everything that exists. And so it was a very weird experience.
Mm. It kind of I'm getting these pictures where you're talking. Obviously, my mind is filling in with pictures. So I see you almost like in a waiting room, an empty
Mhm,
waiting room, and then in the Akashic records, you know,
mhm,
the full library of information,
mhm,
sitting there like Edgar Casey, just holding a book, holding the energy of the book and sucking the information. So that was a waiting room in your Akashic records.
yeah, I definitely can feel that.
Sort
Yeah,
of. Well, that
yeah,
that is one way to experience it.
yeah,
But I do understand that you needed a longer time there to get this enlightenment or this
mhm,
knowledge, even because you couldn't have received it in 7 minutes in our reality. So you
yeah,
did
definitely.
integrate it,
Yeah, and like
definitely.
the craziest thing with that feeling too is before I died, or like at that period of time in my life, I was fully agnostic, believing that nothing matters. Like I went into the scientific of even our atoms don't touch each other, therefore nothing is touching. Everything is almost an illusion of matter, illusion of space and time, and that everything is kind of just random nothingness. So I was very kind of empty at that time, to where I didn't believe in a lot of things. I just floated through life without any real care, um, and so to go from that level of like, I don't care about life, I just want to be gone, into awareness of, oh, I am everything and I am nothing. It's a really big
Um,
shift, which is within that one experience. Yeah.
I can imagine it was a very big shift for you. In another way, it's kind of a blessing to not have this, told information. Because if you had that, you probably wouldn't experience the same
Mhm.
kickstart in the enlightenment as you did.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's what some people would be called a good karma, because it's like it's sort of a negative experience from the outside perspective, but you're having it because of a good thing that's going to come from it.
Yeah.
Uh, mhm.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. That was a sidetrack, but thank
Yes,
you
yes.
for sharing. So
Sorry.
we went totally
Mhm.
a long way from the
Yeah.
Hermes
Like,
that we were starting to talk about.
yes.
So where do you want to go from Hermes? Do you want to
Mhm.
elaborate the magic path?
Yeah, elaborate the magic. Yeah, like the only thing I don't want to talk about is the specific ceremonies and that type of stuff because that can get to it's kind of too complicated to speak out to just because there's a lot of process to it and all that stuff, and therefore I would talk a bit more about the practicality or the kind of effects of it, and the outside perspective of it as well, how it kind of changed in modern media, if you will, as a lot of different entertainment sources have took this idea of magic and really blown it out, and so there's what I would say the common person think of when they say magic is they think of uh, illusions. The magician that is pulling a rabbit out of his hat. That's kind of the culture, if you will, of the early days. Um, so that's kind of a fun area to talk about, as well as the perception of what the mass people think of as magic. Um, yeah, there's also a lot of just writers that, like when doing my research into magic, doing a little bit more, a lot of stuff that would come up is courses on how to create your own magic system. And I was like, oh, creating your own magic system. But then I like got into it and I was like, oh, they're talking about how to write a magic system, how to create one in a story, and not actually creating a true, magic system. But yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of. I do respect that you don't want to talk about ceremonies, but I do not want to talk about that either. I do have a tremendous respect for everything that is has to do with magic or the energies, both magic rituals and even with initiations, as in healing, when you are passing on a attunement to someone else. But so we're not going to do that because everybody is building their own, perspective on what it is, and we don't want to go into to that. There are a lot of books you can buy, and there are very the easier parts of magic that you can start with colors, and because everything is magical, everything is energy, and it has their own meaning, and you can use both color in the magic with magic, and you can use colors, just to absorb into your reality, dress within certain colors, to enlighten your yourself or how you feel. So everything is magical, definitely. So we are not going to, go down in a rabbit hole with that. I like to, draw a similar thing. We can use the concept of art. We can talk about what art is, and we can talk about how a artist is performing their art. But when you're talking to an artist about what are you painting, you probably won't get any details, because when you are in the process of painting something, you don't want to talk about it. That is my energy, that is my painting energy. We are not talking about it. You can watch it when it's finished, but don't have any thoughts about it when it's not finished, because when people start commenting on things that I'm doing when I'm painting, it's the energy is totally gone. So I'm just throwing it out and start all over. I can't have people, trying to put their energy in this ongoing process of what I'm doing. So that is kind of how I see magic too, or a ritual or ceremonial space when you're doing a ritual. So you want to follow it in certain steps, and you want to have the good vibrations. If that is what I want. I want to have my good vibrations, and I want to have it in a certain way. And so therefore it's so difficult to talk about on a live stream, because you don't know how the listener will actually take that information and what they will do with it. So totally respect that. But yeah, there was a sidetrack too. But yeah, back to you, Cody.
Yes, yeah. Well, definitely, and with just talking like the same with me with my crystal energy healings on that type of stuff. Yours is painting, but mine's definitely crystal energy. If I'm doing an energy healing, I don't want that interrupted, because there's a flow to it. There's a kind of a channeling, because it's what I'm doing with the energy healing with the crystals is I'm channeling the energy of the crystal into me, through me, into you, and you get whatever you want out of it. Therefore, there's a stoppage of that flow that's coming out of it, and therefore, I definitely have that same kind of thought process and feeling about it. But yeah, and yeah, there's what was I going to say? There's also kind of an interesting way of how you choose to do these different practices as well. Where if you're going to take the more Eastern path of kind of slower kind of tools to go and use and all that stuff, or the magic. Some people might resonate with magic a bit more because they don't really have the same language as the Eastern. Like a lot of the Western magic revolves around some of the symbols and language that they grew up with. Therefore, they have more resonance with it. Whereas, some of the stuff in the, Eastern might talk about different gods and all that stuff that represent different things. And it gets a little bit more complicated because, a good example is like the monkey god, where there's like a lot of teachings around a monkey god and some of the practices that he had, but a lot of people don't resonate with monkeys, because they don't have any experience with a monkey. And so kind of like that type of thing. It's whatever you have experience on is what you resonate with, and therefore some people will resonate more with Western magic or Eastern philosophy type stuff.
That's a better way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do you have time to continue a bit more?
Let's see. Yeah, it's only like one ish, 12:56. Yeah.
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 So because I want to know what happened if we are talking about Mesopotamia and the Hermetic Hermes magic, then we are fast re, fast forward to the Middle Age of Merlin.
Mm-hmm.
But magic was obviously a big part of the community, even though the priesthood took over a lot of the magical stuff. But there has to have been someone more, doing a lot of known magic between Hermes and Merlin.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, and that's where all the different forms are like origins, if you will, of magic. It's a little kind of not convoluted, but basically like each culture would have their own different type of magic. Even if it might have been built off of something from before them, they might develop it differently based on the culture that they have. Like a good example would actually be like religion, all that type of stuff, where in India, like Hinduism is very connected with India itself in its culture, its practices, its even spices, and like just how they live. Therefore, it's very hard to take that religion and place it somewhere else that doesn't have that culture. they doesn't like fit in very well, so they have to manipulate it and change it. Therefore, kind of Zen Buddhism and all that type of stuff is almost like Hinduism watered down for the culture of Japan and those type of things, because that's where it kind of fit in there. So there's that type of interesting example, but yeah, so there's different cultures that would develop their own different magic, and different individuals within those cultures that would develop their own based off of some of the initial practices that they might use. So they might use practices to tap into energies or spirit guides and just information that will lead them to do their own practices that kind of are original to themselves, that they downloaded and said, oh, well, this is how I got the information. Now I'm going to take that and do something different with it.
But do we have a cult figure that has been more, of a celebrity between those eras of Hermes and Merlin? Both are starting with an M.
Yeah, Hermes, yeah. And I would say the one
No,
that's
not.
actually,
What was I thinking?
yeah,
I take it back.
there's
Yeah,
there's
sorry.
there's an M in it, but it's
Yeah.
Hermes. So
Yeah.
I think, but interesting. I would say the thing that's in between would actually be Thoth. Thoth would be the one that was in between.
Forgot about him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good, yeah. But it's actually kind of interesting how Hermes and Thoth would sometimes be intermingled as the same person. And so it's uh, interesting how they would also, especially within the Egyptian time, there is the Roman kind of conquest during Alexander the Great and all that type of stuff. So there is a big kind of combination or mixture of Egyptian philosophies, gods, religions, all that stuff, and the Roman kind of and Greek type of culture and knowledge, all that type of stuff. They kind of mix together, and so some of the Egyptian gods would get mixed in with the Roman gods, and they would kind of intermingle, if you will. They kind of intersect, and so Hermes, the Roman god, would get mixed in with Thoth, because they were both supposed to be the wisdom keepers. They're supposed to be the ones that were the messengers, the scribes, the ones that hold language and knowledge.
Yeah.
So yes, they kind of got combined. And that's another kind of a weird thing, is that Hermes, even though he was before the Roman and all that type of stuff, somehow ends up in Roman Greek mythology. And so yeah, it's kind of interesting how these names can kind of fall into different cultures and be used in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I do recall that we've been talking about Merlin before, but after Merlin, do we have any huge magical figure after Merlin? Don't say David Blaine.
No, definitely not. I was thinking more of someone, that would be like more of a channeler and less of a magician.
Yeah.
But
I was just
yeah, no,
joking.
yeah, I know. I get it. But yeah, it's. I actually don't think. I think Merlin was the last big figure, and that's why he's kind of stayed within pop culture for so long. I don't think there's actually a one that would stand out after that. And that was only Middle Ages. Middle Ages were like not too terribly long ago, comparative to some of the other ones like Thoth and Hermes and all that stuff. Those were thousands of years apart, whereas Merlin was technically only a couple hundred years, or so.
Yeah, and in the past days there were a lot of, if you can call them wisdom keepers. So obviously, the more wisdom they had, the more explored during the world. I'm just listening to hear what's happening. It started to rain.
Oh, yeah.
Really raining. Okay, but yeah, definitely a wisdom keepers. And today we are more like wisdom keepers ourselves.
Yes, definitely. I think it's become less of like major known people and more of like individuals who might not be as well known type of thing, but might have the same amount of knowledge or within that parameter, but they don't get the celebrity endorsement, if you will, of having a special name and books written about them and all that type of stuff. But, well, there's might be some that would be called influenced a lot of our stuff, but nowadays I think it is very much an individual kind of a path. If you're going to choose to be not choose, but if you become a wisdom keeper, it's kind of a you know yeah,
Or
less of
magical
a
wisdom keeper.
yeah, magic, yes.
I got a bit distracted because it sounded like it started to rain, but there was something there saying that there isn't raining because it sounded more like it came from the indoor, and it was actually my shower, and I'm alone at home,
Oh,
so the shower started to
turn on.
yeah, it went on. So that is a message from the other side. So how do we interpret that, Cody?
Well, that's the water is flowing and random things are occurring. Therefore, that should be something about fluidity and being able to flow from one thing to the next as it changes and random stuff occurs. And so we have been kind of talking about a lot of random things coming up and occurring and kind of haven't really been on the same topic for too long. So we're flowing. But we could kind of end it if you kind of feel like the energies are like kind of
No,
it's time to move.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of a fun thing. There's always a message hidden somewhere, and water is, emotions, and it's a lot of magical stuff or rituals connected to water too. So, and yeah, I can ask you this question. A lot of people do have a glass. I also has a glass of water here right now. So I drink a lot, and you have a bottle of water that you are drinking. So because you get dry in your mouth, and a lot of people sleep with water during the bedside. Are you one of those people who has a water bottle next
Yeah,
to you?
my water bottle stays next to me all through the day, and I never am without the water bottle. But I think mine is it. It's almost necessary for me to have it, mainly because of I like have some medical issues with my mouth, where when talking it does get dry, but it also at the same time as being dry, it overproduces saliva.
Mm,
And so it's a very paradoxical thing. But I have like nerve damage because of a lot of the stuff that I've been through, and so within my mouth it kind of doesn't stop producing saliva. Therefore, I always have to be drinking water to get rid of the saliva, and to that type of thing. So I will have to wake up randomly when I'm in bed, and because it'll be a buildup of saliva, and I have to go and drink to be able to get rid of it.
but you have it in a closed can. I saw you
Mhm.
about it typically.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's enclosed. Yeah.
And I could not drink water who's been in a cup or in a glass standing next to my bed when the morning comes without having something on top of it. So, just water that have been
Mhm.
standing there overnight, because to me, water is extracting energies.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to say to my to my husband, "Don't drink your water," because he always has a cup of water standing next to him, and he likes to drink when he wakes up during the night, and I don't want him to drink that kind of water because it sucks out the energies. And why I do have that image of water pouring out energies is because we were doing a group healing, and there was a glass of water. We wasn't many, we were three persons, and there was a glass of water standing next to this man who were receiving the energy or the healing. And the water was clear when we started, and it wasn't placed there in any purpose. It was just there. So someone just left it, or he left it there. And when we were done, and you could see it was almost the water was almost yellow.
Mm.
So after that, I'm like, you're not drinking any water who has been in a
Mhm.
healing process unless you are nurturing it with a special kind of energy, of course. But when you are doing healing in purpose of getting rid of stuff, you don't want to drink liquid which is placed nearby. So I can share that.
Mhm.
Don't drink the water
Mhm.
when you're doing healing.
Yes. Or you could purposely put the water next to you to help that energy get released or exit out of you, and you just pour that water down the drain. Make sure you don't drink it, like you said, because you
Yeah.
basically just undoing all the healing that you just did by taking that energy back into you. So,
Yeah, exactly. So and don't water your plants to with it either because that could, yeah,
kill them off.
yeah, sort of. But yeah, what do we have to say more, Cody?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's your magical hour.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'd say like going into a little bit more personal stuff, I would say it is more just the type of magic that I like doing, which is like crystal magic, that with grids, crystal grids, including water, adding crystals to the water to be able to imbue it with certain energies and frequencies. And so, yeah, my kind of focus or personal thing is within energy healing and crystals itself. And so that's kind of my uh, magic of choice, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what magical choice do you have for us today?
Well, mine would be the plum blossom jade. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. This is
the
a
small
one.
one.
Yeah, just the small one. Yeah.
Yeah, the small one. Uh,
But this one I thought is a good frequency match to what we're talking about because it helps with astral projection and actual traveling through dimensions and stuff. It helps with protection while you're doing it and with the travel itself to kind of get you into that astral projection faster and all that
mhm.
stuff. And so it's a really good protection stone, but also allows you to practice some very high level magic, if you will. So I thought it'd
So
be a good frequency, good one for it. Mhm.
let's
Okay.
do the magic. And this is the healing part that I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier before Cody
Mhm.
came on here. We're always finishing off our sessions with a distance healing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know about it, I'll be sending the energy of the crystal to you. If you're wanting it, just mentally or verbally say, "I accept the energy." If you don't, then it won't touch you. Yeah, it's all good. Right. So I shall be starting to. Mhm. Mhm. wrapping that up. Breathing it back.
That felt good.
Yes, yeah, a bit shorter of one, but I could feel that that one could go on for a really long time, or it could end up in the energy that I was saying is that this energy will slowly be integrating into, everybody over time. So it's not going to be some really intense energy where, it's going to slowly integrate.
Yeah, it was kind of soft energy, but it actually drew yourself out. There was some kind of expansion, and it definitely worked on the third eye. So it was soft but powerful. And I got this symbol. It was like two parallel lines, very close to each other, and they had this um, parallel line on the other side. So two parallel lines and one small across, like almost a knot, but it wasn't a knot. So, do you recognize that symbol?
It sounds familiar, but yeah, I would say like the one that is close, but it wouldn't be a parallel. It'd be the almost a curved in between the two parallel. So I haven't seen the true parallel of it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Do we have
Have
a
to,
interpretation of it?
yeah, I would say it'd be like a crossroads, so to speak, or at least that's the word that comes up to my mind is crossroads. Because on a parallel, it's almost like you're going through the road, and then there's like the one that's in the middle. Therefore, you're crossing like a boundary, if you will, or going through something, and so therefore something can change or something can happen after you cross that line. Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
interesting.
That's what came up for me.
So crossroad could definitely be the topic with that we are going to talk about next time. We are in those times right now. Crossroad could mean a lot of things, but I'm thinking more of the path that humanity is taking right now, the choices we are making, and the way we choose to walk forward. Either we are going to the brighter side or following the spiritual path of the ascension, or we are going into the darker side and stay tuned to the lower vibrations.
Yeah, I think that's a good topic because it's very broad, and we can go into different sections of like how the mechanism of reality, how you choose the pathways, how mass consciousness affects everybody, and all that stuff. And so yeah, it can be very good topic. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I was also just going to mention that this crystal just had a good charging, moon charging from the super blue moon that was a couple of nights ago. So it has some extra energy into that.
Yeah. Did you see the moon?
No, my there wasn't any clouds or anything like that, but just my schedule, my routine makes it so that I'm kind of almost getting ready-ish type of thing right when the moon would be coming out.
Oh, I went outside the other night here to watch the moon. I had to, walk around a small forest just to see the moon because it was so low. So I just went outside and it was just stars. So I started to walk up hills and nothing there. So I turned right into the forest, and there it was between the trees. So yeah, I did see the supermoon too, but it was very far away, so it wasn't so close. So it wasn't so super big, super giant here. Yeah, well, is there anything you want to end with, or are you feeling
No, I think we kind of covered most of it, or like that type of stuff. Or there's nothing really big that has to be said. I'll just always end with what I might always say is just flow with love, and
flow with love?
energy. Yeah, flow. Yeah.
So let's say that to everybody: flow with love, and please do watch the whole episode because there was some great information in there. So if you are curious, press it to start all over. So thank you, Cody, for being here talking about Hermes and magic wonders. So to the next time, take care of yourself and stay tuned. So let's see how we should stop it. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Bye. And I'm just going to see.